Greetings, this is Mark Anthony K, and welcome to a new segment I'm going to start doing, maybe not on a weekly basis, maybe on a monthly basis. I think that would be more realistic, where I'm going to call this Mark Anthony K Speaks With. What this is basically going to be is just me sitting down and chatting with various people that I find interesting within, the internet community or within the music community, and have a little sit-down one-on-one chat. Let's have a little friendly conversation, talk about, music, records, talk about things that are happening in the world, things that are happening in people's lives, and just to get better acquainted with some of the people that are floating around on the internet. One of the main reasons why I wanted to do this is I felt that there are some people within the community that I've seen making videos for a long time and I've never seen them on other people's channels before. Case in point is episode number 1 here, with my first guest that I've talked to, which is a gentleman by the name of Dylan. You guys know him as the vinyl spinner, I believe it is, or the record spinner. Sorry if I got that incorrect, but Dylan has been around for 5 years, and something that he said to me earlier really struck me, which is that he's been making videos and his channel's been around now, the vinyl spinner one, for a long time now, 5 years, and this was the first time he's been asked to appear on another person's channel. I found that absolutely insane, to be quite honest. And another thing that I wanted to kind of point out is that there's a lot of people on the in the VC community that are of the older generation, and I think it's coming time to maybe start focusing on some of the younger people within the VC community. They are the future of it, and the people that will pick up the torch and hopefully continue spreading the word of music and all kinds of records and stuff like that. So I thought it a good idea to maybe focus on a bit more of the younger demographic. Not only, I will be obviously talking with people of all ages, I hope, so don't take that the wrong way. So without any further ado, let's go over to my video that I did, my sit down with Dylan, and we talked about all kinds of things, from records, the music business, even in the sense of he manages a record store, how that world has been affected with the way things are in the world right now. Lots of interesting things, and he loves Kiss, so of course I had to have him on here. So let's go over to that right now. Here is Dylan and me chatting about music and a lot more. I hope you enjoy it. Greetings, folks. Mark Anthony K here, and today I am very honored to have a member of the VC that I've been watching for quite a long time, actually, to be honest with you. And he has a fantastic collection of records, and he's a fellow Kiss fan. Yay! Thank God there's another Kiss fan out in the world.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to talking Kiss with him and other kinds of music that we kind of see eye to eye on. So we're gonna have a fun time here. This is nothing ultra serious. It's gonna be a fun talk. And Dylan, how are you, my friend? And how was your day today?
I am doing very well. Well, first off, this is the first time that I am appearing in this style on another person's YouTube channel in my entire time on YouTube within 5 years almost. So it is an immense honor to be here. I'm doing relatively well. Went to go see the David Bowie Moon Age Daydream film at the local IMAX, which was fantastic. Very interesting approach to the way that his legacy was presented. It focused more on the artistry than the history, but it kind of told the history in some degree. You got to check it out for yourself. It has my endorsement. The soundtrack, I won't spoil anything. It's literally the equivalent of like the Beatles' Love soundtrack, how it's like mishmashing all kinds of different songs and whatnot out of Bowie's catalog. Well worth the watch and listen. It's fantastic.
Oh, well, there you go. There's another person that we see obviously very eye to eye on. David Bowie is like one of my top collecting things that I do. I'm very huge on Mick Ronson. He was one of my biggest guitar influences. So that automatically brought me over to David Bowie. So
yeah, I've never delved into Ronson's solo stuff. I've been meaning to, but obviously he's a hell of a guitar player. But I would say Bowie is up there in terms of collectible artists simply because there's so much coming out, or that has come out in recent years. I mean, 2019, we got all those 7-inch box sets and just all various bits and pieces. So I totally see eye to eye with you there.
Great. Absolutely. Okay, so let's get started with a couple of questions here. So when did you actually start collecting vinyl, and what attracted you to it?
So I started collecting roughly around 2014, and the biggest culprit why I started a descent into madness of collecting vinyl is because of Jack White and his record label Third Man Records, because obviously Jack White is very enthusiastic about the format, and with his label Third Man, he was always trying to see how far he could push the boundary, and his label has put out some insane collectible pieces, some that are 3 to 4 figures, like records with like rose petals pressed in them, records with 7 inches like hidden inside. Like, he did so much with it. And that year when I started collecting in 2014, he released his album Lazaretto, and the standard vinyl pressing is called the Ultra LP, which has all kinds of bells and whistles. Like, side one plays, inwards, backwards, and then there's 2 locked grooves. There's dual intro grooves for one track, and then there's a floating hologram on the other. So it's things like that that shows how far the platform can be pushed. But also, as I got older, I started to understand the concept of listening to an album as a whole, which is why I love vinyl to begin with, because, yeah, the sound quality and all is great. There's a science behind it, but it's very much, appreciating an album as a work of art from start to finish. And that's what I love getting out of the format.
That's great. Which leads me to another question I just thought of now when you just mentioned this. There's a lot of stereotyping about the younger generation that, they're all about streaming, and that they don't really go for the physical format, which I'm finding is incorrect here, because not only are you a big collector of the physical format, but you have a group of friends that you call the Young VCirs.
Yes, the youngest members of the VC, yes.
Yes, and that you guys are all collecting this format. So maybe talk a little bit about this. How did you guys all meet, like your group there?
So it all started around 2020 when the world basically shut down, and it was just this little network of people within my age group that we all have our aims. Like, each member is into their own specific thing. Like, one member is an intense Queen fan, one is an intense Cheap Trick fan, and another one's into like Zappa and McCartney. So we all have our aims, but in general, we kind of have a similar love for, certain genres and artists. And it kind of just started out as like a friend group for us to kind of bounce, stuff back and forth off of. But obviously, because we have channels of our own, that's what brought us together, was the YouTube vinyl community. And since then, we've been in very close contact for the past 2 years. We've done various trips around the country. We did Nashville in the summer of 2021. We just did St. Louis this past summer, which was phenomenal. And we even have plans for what we're going to do next year, which I won't spoil too much, but it's grown to be this huge entity that a lot of people in the VC really get off on. I mean, I put together documentaries of what we've done, and it's a marathon to watch. These are not little 15-20-minute bits. These things run 2.5 hours long of just us shooting shit and showcasing what we bought at all the record stores we visit and whatnot. But you also sense the camaraderie, which is, I think, something that we try to really focus in on, because we really are genuine, best friends. So it's great that the YouTube vinyl community did bring us together in that sense.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. I mean, I really enjoyed watching those too, because you can actually see like the friendship there. It's not a fake thing. This isn't something that was just constructed for the sake of YouTube. These are actual friends that are going genuine around. Yeah. So with that said, though, would you say that you are more of a physical listener than streaming? Do you ever listen to streaming? Is that something that you kind of shy away from, or?
It's a double-edged sword, because for myself, like, if I want to do some in-depth listening, I will sit in front of my turntable. However, if I'm on the go, driving to work or whatever, Apple Music comes in handy. And plus, Apple Music has lossless audio streaming, Dolby Atmos. So if I'm listening with earbuds, I can hear various nuances. So I really do appreciate both. I mean, obviously, streaming is just for the sake of convenience because I can't lug a record in a car. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
I mean, and I do like CDs as well, but it's funny because like with most like new releases that come out, I almost solely go for vinyl. Like there's a few rare exceptions that I will get both formats for. I mean, if it's Kiss, I'll get both. If it's Pink Floyd, I'll get both because those are my two like big go-tos. But like this day, like when it comes to like CDs, like it's mainly like big deluxe box sets that I will go after. But like with most new albums that come out, it's like solely vinyl. So I don't mind both, but if I had to pick one, it's vinyl takes the reign for sure.
Great. So you work at a record store. You're, from what I understand, you're a manager, right?
Yes. So I do manage a store. My boss has 3 stores altogether. There's the one based in my home state, and then there's 2 up in Pennsylvania.
Now, do you find being the manager at a record store is a plus or a minus? Do you find like it's like, oh my God, I can just go, I can get anything I want, and I'm going to be blowing money left, right, and center, or is it something that you can kind of control?
I will say, because I started out as a basic employee when I started roughly like last May in 2021. I was coming home with stuff every day when I started because I was aware of the perks. But with time, it's kind of like, okay, I know that this will be here for a while. I can hold off on this. I'll get this at a later time. It is very, easy to be swayed into snagging up anything and everything that your heart desires when collections come in or based on what I can order from distributors. But it does take a bit of self-discipline because the downside is, most of the employees are also collectors. So it's not, I mean, sure, we're going there for, monetary sake, but also it's fueling the addiction as well. And for myself, it's a gateway. So
yeah.
it's like that.
Yeah, for sure. Question on a more serious note, though. The whole thing with the vinyl now, where people, especially like me, who is an independent musician, who's making his own music and pressing it on vinyl, there's a long wait now for me to get product because the pressing plants are rammed with orders from major labels and stuff like that. How do you find this affects your business stuff? Like, do you guys ever get a situation where you've ordered like some big record to come to the store and then all of a sudden you get a message saying, sorry guys, 3 more weeks, this is on backup? Has that kind of thing ever happened on the store end of things?
Honestly, for anyone that works in the record retail business, we are all aware of the various setbacks that occur within this field. I think what kind of got the ball rolling was when it was announced that Adele had pressed up, 500,000 copies of her newest album. And of course that pushes back not just the small, artists like yourself that are wanting to get your own stuff done, but everyone else. There were some titles that were so readily available for a while that all of a sudden dried up. Like just recently, there must have been a silent repressing done of Kate Bush's Hounds of Love, which everyone is going nuts over because of Stranger Things, and literally like within a day disappeared entirely. So I feel like in some cases, plants are getting somewhat better at getting product pressed back up and available into the market. But there's some cases where it just like disappears in a flash. And for, the small time musician that's wanting to get their stuff done, you can only imagine how many plants within the country, let alone the world, are trying to keep up with the pace. Of course, there's notable plants, such as like RTI, Quality Record Pressings, but there's even like small time ones that will, that are kind of just out of the way, but, they exist. So I don't know. It's a bit of a sticky situation. I think from the initial like point that it all started to go down, it's getting better. But with time, this thing has been on a constant uprise that, everyone can say that it's bound to get worse and worse, but hopefully more sources are utilized to where the backup isn't, months and months down the line.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing that I have heard through the grapevine is that there are some major labels that are starting to look into building their and constructing their own pressing plants. Like Sony is apparently going to be doing their
Good.
own pressing.
Should.
And yeah, and I mean, you being a Jack White fan must have seen his message where he asked the major labels to step up
Sure. Yeah.
and do that too. Yeah, so I think it's a great idea.
It takes the relief off of him to have to press it up because he has a label of his own. He's pressing up his own product. So, in a way, I mean, it makes sense for the corporate labels to do it because if they have the capital to do it, then they should be investing. I mean, it's just like when they shut down all, the vinyl plants back in the day and when CDs were a big thing. And now here we are. So, I don't know.
I mean, what I think is genius is I'm sure you're aware, like Metallica, they have their own pressing machine at one of the plants there. I mean, that to me is absolute genius because now instead of going and saying, "Come on, please, can you press the records by this time?" They're like, "Listen, we have our own machine now. Here's our plates, get them done, blah 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 blah," and that's it. What I was going to ask you too is Record Store Day is coming up again, the Black Friday. The stores that I frequent here in Toronto area. The guy literally almost looks like he has a rosary when the day comes. He's like, "Please God, did they send me these records?" Like he's never 100% certain on what he ordered will come because it's happened a few times where he's ordered something and he only got one of them or none of them or he got like 15 of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How is it for you guys? Do you find that you have a kind of similar situation or is your store pretty good with getting Record Store Day stuff?
We are pretty spot on when it comes to our allocations. Luckily, the one thing I've noticed with this year's list is the quantity of how many units are pressed per release. Like there's only maybe a handful that go past 10,000 copies, which when I see that, I'm just like, all right, how limited is it? It could be marketed as that, but how limited? But now I'm seeing like 2,500, 3,000, 5,000. So I'm like, okay, so maybe, I mean, because on the other hand, too, the way that us mom and pop stores are affected by it, because sure, we can take part in it and we'll get business, we'll get people in. But at the end of the day, when we have product left over, it's up to us what we have to do with it. And there's some stuff that has been sitting there from Record Store Days years past. I will say, though, I mean, in terms of allocations, like I've said, we're pretty much on the money with what we request. But of course, like prime example was the Taylor Swift 7-inch release. I think I requested 30 to 40 copies. And I think we got in like probably 12. And out of the 3 stores that are based around us, my location was the one that got the most. And that was because I did a panic order on our direct website with one of our big distributors that we buy from, just as a sign of faith, like, please, can we get something more? And then within 2 minutes of opening the gate, we were sold out. So those people got wanted.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, very popular artist for sure.
Sure.
Question, and this you might find this humorous, but I am very, very curious about this. Mofi. Okay, does your store carry Mofis, and have you noticed any difference in people buying them or not?
So it's funny. For a while, like before I started working there, they did have some Mofi pressings. Like I remember they had the Cars debut album, a couple of Weezer Mofis. It's not exactly a hot seller because the one thing I realize, and I see this all the time, and I ask myself this, and I feel like I know what the reason is because the store I work at is within a mall. We're already kind of catering to a very sort of narrow kind of demographic. So it's kind of tough to push that product, but we do carry it. And I think, to be honest with you, we have been selling Mofis more now than in the past. Because of the controversy. The most notable title that I distinctively remember selling multiple times was Alan Parsons' Eye in the Sky. And I don't know. I think if anything, maybe it might entice people to see what the hoopla is about because, if they're using DSD transfers, they want to see what the hype is. How does it sound compared to, let's say, an original pressing that is sourced from the original analog master and whatnot. I mean, I don't see Mofis getting out the door often, but, the couple of handfuls of times that we have sold them recently, it's been more so as of lately after the news had come out. But rest assured, to my ears, I mean, I'm sure maybe we can go in better detail about this. I'm still holding on to all of mine, and they all sound phenomenal, regardless of the source.
Yeah. So there you go. That was going to be the other thing I was going to ask. Are you a collector of Mofi, and are you one of these people who are going to doing a surprise, fire sale of all of it, or are you keeping yours?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because like I've noticed that some titles people were putting them up on Discogs for prices that I hadn't seen them at in ages, and I'm just like, it's good for me because I kind of want them and I don't want to fork out. But in terms of me collecting Mofi, I do collect them. This is down to the title, because when it comes to most of the stuff that they do, I'm not saying that it's not for me, but it's just down to what specific albums they put out, and also the price point too, because that is my biggest bone to content with all of this. I mean, if you're going to use digital sources, that's totally fine, but justify the price point, because a label such as Analog Productions can charge basically what they want, and it's a guaranteed promise that they're using the original master tape or the next best possible thing. And with Mofi, it's transparency that they have to keep up with, which now they are doing, because ultimately they were caught dead in their tracks. So I can gladly say that, whatever Mofi puts out going into the future, if it's something that I like, I will be interested in it, and I will perhaps foresee picking it up.
Good. Just in case people are wondering, and if you're wondering, I own one Mofi. I own Rick Wakeman's Journey to the Center of the Earth. I'm a big Rick Wakeman fan, obviously because of my love of Yes.
Yeah,
right?
I love Yes as well.
Yeah. I know you're a big fan of Yes. I've seen you put up quite a few of their records, which makes me, of course, happy, right? But the other one I'm trying to find, and I was hoping that during this whole kerfuffle it would have gone down, is Close to the Edge. There's a Mofi of Close to the Edge, and I just can't find a decent priced one of it. It's so still like way up in price.
When did it come out? Do you know?
A long time ago. It's like one of the older ones,
70s or 80s.
Like way back, like probably 90s, maybe early 2000s.
I remember. I don't know if I've ever seen one out in the wild, but I know that it does exist. I'll keep my eyes open for you if that's the case, if you're hard set on a copy.
That'd be great. So the whole Mofi thing has been beaten to death, so I don't think we need to get into too much of that. But I was curious on your take, especially not only as a collector, but also as a person who works at a store, how much that sort of thing, affected sales of it. Now, another thing I'm interested in is, you spoke about Analog Productions and some of these other, specialty sort of labels. Do you guys carry those a lot, or is this something that's mainly, that people just do online, and guys don't really carry it at stores much?
For the most part, Analog Productions is almost exclusively a direct-to-customer type of thing. So if you go to acousticsounds.com, which the guy that runs Analog Productions also runs Acoustic Sounds and has his own pressing plant in Salina, Kansas. Guy's name's Chad Kasem. He's one of the great leading figures of the vinyl world for the past, I would say, 30 years going on. There's been a few times that I've seen some titles available, like Herbie Hancock's Headhunters. I know for a fact is in stock because I saw it was available. I was like, hell yeah. Even the recent Jimi Hendrix Are You Experienced UHQR was available, but I know that just given the price point on that, no one that comes into my store is going to buy it just because of the price. And also, it's funny, I encounter some audiophiles at moments, and those are the customers I love, because it's like, okay, you're speaking my language and I know exactly what you're talking about, but it's like I can only be so conservative to get that kind of product in. As for myself, I love Analog Productions. I have a couple of pieces I am going to showcase as well in this conversation, which I'm so stoked about.
So that's great. So before we get to that, and thank you for talking about these store situations, because I think it's important for people to know. I think that's one thing that people are not very aware of, is what's happening within the stores. We hear people talking about, I went to Amoeba, I went to here and there, but I think people need to know more what's happening within the store structure as well. So thank you for clearing up some of these things too. So I appreciate that. So let's talk about some of the good stuff now. Name me some of your favorite bands.
All right.
Show some of the stuff you have.
Do I have to name the first one? Do I have to? I mean, it's these guys. Kiss is my favorite band of all time, and just I've been a fan since I was 2 years old. So, and I'm 25, so it's been almost a lifelong thing. They are the one part of my childhood that has been completely retained, and I've never looked back since. So, Pink Floyd, not Pink. I just spoiled the second one. Kiss is number one. Number two is Pink Floyd. I discovered them when I was a freshman in high school. Just kind of, it was one of those things. I just decided to stumble into their work, and that literally within a matter of months, I had all those immersion box sets, and I had, all those other crazy packages that they put out, and bootlegs as well. A big bootleg collector in terms of Kiss and Floyd. Like that's some of the most in-depth stuff that I have on hand. Those are the main two. As for other ones, it could honestly be very variable. Like, I mean, I love Bowie. I'm a big Beatles fan. I'm just kind of looking around at some artists that I love. I'm a big Of Montreal fan. Relatively, I don't want to say new because they've been around for 25 odd years, but the main guy behind that band is a guy named Kevin Barnes. He is very much a modern day Bowie Prince type of guy, where always shape shifting genres. Like, he was very more quirky, like Baroque pop, psychedelic, and he's worked in more electronic influences in some of the more recent albums. Love their stuff. Genesis is one of them. I'm a big Genesis fan. I work for a Genesis tribute band, so it's all kind of bleeding in the territory. Yeah, those are some of the big ones off the top of my head, and then everything else is kind of in between.
I got to ask you. You mentioned that you work for a Genesis tribute band. What exactly do you do with this Genesis tribute band?
So the band is called The Genesis Show. We are based out of the Northeast in the United States. I am very much a roadie / lighting director. So my job is to basically work with local lighting programmers at the various places that we play at, have them program certain cues. Because the thing with us, we're committed to give a good presentation, but for some of the die-hard fans that watch footage from certain tours, there's certain parts of the show that are so iconic. Like in the song Afterglow, there's these pink glow lights from behind the stage. We recreate that, and then when we do things like In the Cage, all the spotlights are on the vocalist. We want to master all of those looks. That way, the uber diehard fans can get off on that. And just for the sake of authenticity, because the band itself is very faithful to the arrangements that were performed on the road. So, sure, they might not dress up the part like the musical box, but if you want a good oral representation of Genesis music from the early Phil Collins period, so like 76 to 82, along with the early Pete stuff, those are the guys to see. And those gigs are always fun to do. I always say, even though it's work, it's the best day off, because I get to be amongst music geeks like myself.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. I think that must be a really fun job to have, lighting, because I mean, especially bands like that where lighting was so integral to their live performance. I mean, Genesis are credited for doing some of the very first Very lights.
That's
designs.
Right. They funded it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So there you go. So I mean, lighting to them is very important, probably as much as important as sound to them. So that must be a great kind of job to have, to do that kind of stuff. I'm curious, when you guys play, is there an era that you find gets the most reaction? Like if they play something from, let's say, Trick of the Tail, do you find people react more to that, or is there a certain album that you find that people react to more?
It's so funny because I feel like it's kind of right divided in the middle, because there were a couple gigs where we were performing the Seconds Out live album from start to finish, and then we did an encore set of stuff from like the Three Sides live album, so things like Dodo, Abacab, and whatnot. And I saw old heads just going nuts to Supper's Ready and just losing their shit. And then I see all the housewives swaying to Misunderstanding. So it's very cut in the middle. So, and of course, throughout the show, I mean, every show that I go to with them, it's, I hear guys yelling out, Supper's Ready, Gabriel, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you gotta know what you're attending,
Yeah.
Did you see the flyer? You see what tour we're doing?
Exactly. So I got to ask you a difficult question. Favorite Genesis album?
I feel like I've stated this before because I feel like it changes often. I have to say Selling England by the Pound.
Great.
That record just has so much variety on it. The playing on it is phenomenal. And some of my favorite Genesis tracks, like Cinema Show is on it, of course. First or Fifth is a great moment. The Dancing with the Moonlit Night. I mean, just that album is just flawless.
Yeah, it's a great album. I mean, it is probably my favorite Peter Gabriel era one. For me, my favorite Genesis album is Trick of the Tail. It always has been, probably always will be. I've always found that that's like such a important moment for the band, but you could also sense the urgency in the music because they knew that this was make or break. Yeah,
for sure. That album I have such a soft spot for because that was actually my introduction to Genesis at a young age. And just that the album opener alone, Dance in a Volcano, like I loved it. I was like, holy crap, this is so epic. But that like jazz fusion breakdown in the middle towards the end, I was like, all right, I'm sold. That was it. Like I don't even know how old I was, like 4 or 5 years old, was just like it was phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. So would you say that record might have been your introduction to music, maybe?
Not so much music in general, because I mean, and I do have to say, you know, because we're talking about, you know, music that I've grown up with, I give full credit to my parents for introducing me to progressive rock type stuff like Genesis, Yes, and whatnot, because that's my foundation. That's what they love. And they love, you know, a whole bunch of other bands and genres, but they very much imprinted that onto me, and that is the foundation of what I like. But like when I was a kid growing up, like some of like my favorite songs, because I've always been associated with music at a very young age. I remember at the time when I was like 2 years old, some of the biggest hits at the moment were Santana's Smooth with Rob Thomas, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Other Side, and there was something else, Sour Girl by Stone Temple Pilots. So I was very much absorbing it at a very young age. And then once I saw Kiss on TV on VH1, that just completely broke the gates open for me.
Yeah, I totally understand. Cool. So now I'm curious to get to the part that I'm sure you're anxious to get to as well, is how about we show some records that you find dear to you, or some records that you want to show off.
Yes, I have a small selection here. I just showed this on camera not too long ago. Of course, this is my copy of the first Kiss album, signed by Peter Criss, that I just met recently at the New Jersey Horror Con. Just a standard 2014 reissue, but it's cool because it is indeed signed. For anyone that does watch my channel, I'm a huge bootleg collector. I do lots of bootleg hauls, both centered around certain bands that I collect or just things that I get in general. And since I just showcased Kiss, here is my latest Kiss bootleg, and that is Providence 1979 First Night. There's a guy that I buy frequently from, and he has both the first night and the second night, and I was like, which one of the two is the better one? So he said this was it, and just I'll showcase everything. Just
sure.
You're wanting to see it all. Of course, designed beautifully. Like these new bootlegs that are coming out now are just phenomenal. Comes pressed on this sort of lilac colored vinyl, and if you're a diehard nut and you know all about custom center labels, it does recreate the Dynasty one, and it even includes a poster promoting the two shows, which is pretty awesome.
Oh, nice.
So that is very, very cool. That was a little birthday gift to myself, as if I don't treat myself enough. Moving onward. Let's see. What else do I have? I've talked about Analog Productions and whatnot. This is one of my most greatest sounding pressings that I own that's on the label. So good that I did, this is going to sound over exaggerated, I did shed a tear when I listened to it. Like it was so good. And that is the UHQR pressing of Jethro Tull's Aqualung.
Oh, nice.
Pressed on 2 LPs, 45 RPM, pressed on Clarity vinyl. It is literally the essential pressing to own if you want to hear the best sounding version of this album, hands down. So there's that. What else do I have? Of course, I mentioned of Montreal. This is a great album to start with. This album is called Satanic Panic in the Attic. Has a lot of the quirky psychedelic elements in there, but it's also has some of the more electro type influences. Very Beatlesy, the Kinks, Monkees, just it has a little bit of everything. This is also a cool recent color pressing. I'll showcase it just because it's
nice. Oh, cool. Look at that.
Orange and black starburst. Sounds absolutely great. Moving onward, since I had mentioned Pink Floyd and also my time starting collecting, this is the very first record that I ever bought. And this kind of goes to show how in depth of a fan I was early on, just even getting into vinyl collecting. This is the complete BBC sessions from 67 to 68. This is a bootleg. Funny enough, I bought this at the record store that I now work at. Back when I started. So it all kind of came full circle in a sense, but this is a really great bootleg. I mean, this stuff has been released officially later on, but for, back in 2014, none of this stuff was out. And when my local record shop had this was a must-have for me because I'm a huge Syd Barrett fan. Like pre-Dark Side Floyd, like 67 to 72 is right up my alley. And I love Dark Side, Wish You Were Here, Animals, The Wall. I love all that stuff, but this early Floyd stuff is just a wee bit more adventurous. It's interesting stuff. And let's see. Here is a band that I decided to dive into recently, and I've been kind of afraid to for various reasons. The band is called King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Yes.
And this album is called Nonagon Infinity. I picked this up when I was in Las Vegas recently. The reason why I've held off is because they have way too many records. Like, I don't know where to start. Like, I encounter customers that go on about this band. It's like, oh yeah, this is their alternative album. This is their metal album. This is their punk one. I'm just like, where the hell do I go? And I did hear this album prior to buying it. So I was like, okay, I am familiar with it. And plus the cashier said, this is definitely the primer album to check out. And plus, just for the sake of showcasing the vinyl itself, which, spoiler alert, I love me some colored vinyl. If it comes pressed on some crazy splatter or marble vinyl, I will buy it. It comes pressed on this sort of starbursty,
nice
colored vinyl. That's the cool thing with all their pressings. They all come pressed on crazy colors. And the last piece I'll showcase, consider this a spoiler exclusive. I'm going to do an entire video discussing these, but my entire Doors collection has been upgraded with the Analog Productions 2LP 45 RPM pressings. I literally got the main 6 recently for my birthday. First
nice.
Until LA Woman. So I will be bidding farewell to my Rhino pressings, which do sound good, but all analog, 2LP 45.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. I mean, I know I do a live stream on Sundays and Tuesdays, sometimes on Fridays, with this guy named the Vinyl Archivist, Patrick.
Yes.
And I'm on the live stream with him, and we listen, we spin music, we talk, and it gets sometimes pretty hilarious and comical at times, right? But he's a big collector, as you must know. He's like one of the...
I've seen this content, yeah.
Yeah, one of the collector guys. And he said numerous times that those pressings of the Doors albums are the ones to have in your collection. So
and they've been around for like 10 years, and I've never like pulled the trigger on them. So then I just figured, you know what, I'll kill it all in one shot. I said to my godmother, I said, if you want, because she asked me what I wanted, I said, that's it. 6 albums, that's it.
So I'll show you a couple of things really quickly.
Yes, what do we got?
So just to show my Kiss fandom too. So I'm a big Kiss collector, but I like to collect the Japanese stuff.
Yeah. Ooh, that's beautiful.
Right. So I got this is obviously the Love Gun with the very wide obi on it, right?
That's a very wide obi. Yes.
Yeah. With the normal sort of label on it, and I've also got the Rock and Roll Over, right?
Ooh, yes, with the gatefold.
Yeah, this is the gatefold.
Yeah.
And it has the sticker in it too, which is funny. Which is funny because when the guy sold it to me, I go, "Thank you very much for selling it. I really appreciate it. It came really nicely, and the sticker is fantastic." And he goes, "Whoa, sticker?" I go, yeah. I go, you left the sticker in there. He goes, oh, okay. So that was maybe a mistake on his part, but
Sure.
That's
great.
So I also collect, like I said before, Rick Wakeman. So this is a UK first pressing of Criminal Record, right? And ironically, this is funny. At the bottom where you look at the piano, there's a signature there, right?
Okay, yes, I see it.
And I'm not a big guy on signatures. I wouldn't know if that was Rick Wakeman's or Mickey Mouse's signature. So luckily, I showed it on a Rick Wakeman and Yes site, and they said, yeah, that is Rick Wakeman's signature. So apparently, I have one with his signature on it. So
that's awesome.
That's fantastic. What else do I have here? I'm a big Rush fan, as you probably know.
Yeah, love me some Rush.
So this is a US promo copy of Hold Your Fire. Probably going to be hard to see it, but on the label it does say somewhere there, that little black text there in the middle there.
Promotional copy not for sale.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't have many of those because Rush albums for some reason are not the easiest to find promo copies of. At least I haven't had an easy time finding them. And I'm curious about this. There's a record label on Bandcamp called, what are they called again? Oh yeah, Riding Easy Records.
Well, yes, love Riding Easy Records.
And they
Brown Acid. I have all the volumes, dude.
Yeah, yes. I have all of them too. I collect all of these.
Which pressing is that?
This is. Let me pull it out. I don't remember because I have them all, and I sometimes try to go for the colors. This is the color one too. This is the red, I believe. Or it's like a red kind of swirly pinky.
Oh, that's cool.
Right.
Oh, that is so awesome. Yeah, I love all those comps. That was one of my quarantine discoveries because there's a website that I used to buy from frequently called Roland Rex. They used to sell a lot of bootlegs back then. He did exclusive colored pressings on his site, limited to 100 copies each. He was blowing them out at $10 a piece. So I was like, okay, those are decent, kind of entry points, and just hearing all that underground psych stuff that is just so obscured from that 70s time frame, it's phenomenal, and it's crazy that they're still churning out volumes to this day. It's awesome.
Yeah, and another one I'm going to show, I'm sure you have this one too, is they released that best
Record
of
Store Day. Yep.
So
I'm waiting for volume 2.
Yeah. I think this is a really good idea because for people who are kind of unsure about entering this kind of collection, get this first. You know what I mean? It's
honestly a solid entry point. Just kind of covers a bit of everything from the first 10 volumes.
Yeah. And the last thing I'm going to show you is another Record Store Day thing.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you might have this, and I wouldn't be surprised if you do. Does this box look familiar to you?
Of course, that's the BOW promo box. I have that right up there somewhere.
Right. So I love it. I love it when this came out. I was so happy that they were doing it because I was trying for a long time to find the original one with Dana Gillespie on there on the other side.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And it's hard to find, and if it is, it's I want your left nut and your liver for it, So I
mortgage on the house.
Yeah, exactly. So I haven't done that, but when they did this, I was so happy because I had all those additional notes and how they tell you the differences between the actual hunky dory versions and this
photos and everything.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So I really was happy to get this. Now I'm going to ask you one last thing.
Yes.
Before we wrap things up, and again, Dylan, thank you for coming on. I'm so glad that you came on and we had this time to chat.
Thank you. This has been so awesome.
This has been great. But I have to ask you being a big collector of bootleg stuff, especially KISS stuff.
Yes.
One of the things that we talk about in the KISS FAQ podcast is how we can't understand how KISS doesn't do some of these sort of fantastic releases that we see that these bootleggers do. We've seen some of these, box sets from the period of the Unmasked tour and box sets from, all these different eras that are just fantastically made, Do you ever get frustrated as a KISS fan that they don't go down a road and do legit stuff? I mean, now we're getting the deluxe box sets. Now we got the Destroyer one, the Creatures one is coming, and also I have these on vinyl too, but just to show you for ease, I have these on CD as well. Off the soundboards, yes. Right? They finally clued in and started doing this. Are you happy at least that they've started, smelling the coffee a bit and doing this? What's your view on that as a collector?
So my take on Off the Soundboard, I mean, I think it's great what they're doing. I can tell you right now, they did clean up some bits. And some pieces are edited. There's various Facebook groups that I'm in. There's this one guy, his name's Pablo. He does a lot of like side-by-side comparisons between what has been circulating prior and what is being officially released. And there's a case where like audience noise is kind of cut out, out of one section. Paul's stage banter is kind of edited a little bit here. So, it is what it is. They're trying to do something. I mean, I've been pleased with the series. The last one from Des Moines, 77, phenomenal. It is just sensational. I'm curious as to what they'll do next. As for, how do I feel about Kiss not tapping into it? Because I do have some. I mean, I'll pull one.
Sure.
Just to provide some context here. Here is, let's see, this is Richfield Coliseum from 76. Yes. Nice jacket. Get an OB type of strip. Very nice. Open it up. Cool gatefold. Little tour booklet here with photos.
Cool.
Like, come on, guys. Seriously? Yeah. And on top of that, you get a giant fold-out poster that is suitable for framing. It's printed very nicely. It's not cheap whatsoever.
Yeah.
And the vinyl itself, I mean, nice colored vinyl.
Yeah.
So, I think I'll play devil's advocate. I would be more pissed off if bootleggers weren't doing this, because Kiss is a band that is worthy of getting this type of treatment. They are perhaps the most visual band that one could possibly fathom. I don't know if, some of these releases have kind of lit the fire under their butts to get things out like the Destroyer box or Creatures. I mean, yeah, like they've done, like, I don't know. I feel like it would be a great market to tap into. And to be quite honest with you, like, I'm kind of bummed that the Des Moines show was, as great as that release is just given that minuscule stripped down, delivery, which I get it. They're keeping it true to the whole bootleg aesthetic of like, stencil artwork, cardboard covers. That's great. But like, given that was the peak, they could have easily done like a bells and whistles thing with photos from the time frame, a cool gatefold jacket. Like, they really could have gone all out. But look, we should be lucky, and I'm not trying to complain that we're getting stuff, period, because for a while I was complaining that Kiss wasn't delivering anything. But now, to be honest, since the Destroyer box, I was like, okay, that is the blueprint. And now with Creatures coming out and whatever else hopefully comes out in the future, we'll be getting what we want. And also, it's what all of us want.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, and I mean, the thing that I find interesting about it is how they say, we're trying to do the whole bootleg thing. But, if they were doing it like the real bootlegs like you showed, there would have to be a lot more to it than what just comes with this stuff, right?
And look, they can charge whatever they want. Fans will buy it. Yeah. Let's face it.
Yeah, exactly.
They will.
Yeah. I mean, when the Creatures box came out, I mean, truth be told, I haven't pulled the trigger yet on the deluxe box, but I did buy the 3 LP blue vinyl that came out, and and I bought a T-shirt and I bought all kinds of other things. So they always get me for something. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. So I'm really happy that they're starting to do stuff like this, because we as well were saying so many times on the podcast that they're not doing enough stuff. They're not appeasing us, and then they get upset when they see all these kinds of box sets come out from other people. Well, they only have themselves sort of to blame. They have all this stuff in their vaults. They have all these things available. They could make it really fantastic, and they are starting to do it now. So I'm not going to harp on them too much, because the Destroyer box was fine. The Creatures one looks fantastic. I'm sure it's going to be really, really good stuff, and I could only imagine what's going to be coming down the line next. So, so how about we leave it at that? I would like to ask you, though, if you'd be cool on maybe coming back at a future time to do this again with me.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. This was an absolute blast. Hands down.
Great, because I'd like to do it again. We'll dig deep into some more stuff, and I'm sure
Absolutely.
there'll be more things to talk about. I'm sure, right?
Sure.
So, but before we go, how about you tell everybody your, your channel? Talk about your channel, where they can find you, and if you have an
Yes.
Instagram or stuff like that.
Yes. So my YouTube channel is called The Record Spinner. All my social media links, I mainly use Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. All my links can be found there. Just, find the guy holding the copy of Kiss Alive. That's me. I do videos every Friday. I have a series called Sunboxings where I unbox like a box set on the first Sunday of each month. And because I'm a Kiss fan, I usually devote one upload per month to something Kiss related, whether it's Kiss vinyl, Kiss fandom, anything of that sort. But outside of YouTube, the one other thing I'll plug is that I do some minor journalism for a website called VW Music. I cover various Kiss things. I do album reviews. I started out doing a series on every Kiss bootleg from like the dawn of 73 onwards, but it gets daunting when you realize that there is a recording for every single show on a tour. I've left off on Alive 2. I'm debating if I should end it with Dynasty because it's the last with the original four of the classic period, or if I want to delve further, maybe with some assistance. I'm not quite sure. I know people are really wanting it, but it is very time consuming, and everything that I do on these fronts is on my own downtime. As much as I'd love to do this completely as a living, I work 40 hours a week and I come home and do more work. So I really try to get these things out, but I'm always, creative on all fronts, YouTube and writing. So there's always something on the horizon.
So what was the name of the page that you write for, like your journalist stuff?
Yes. So the website is called vwmusicrocks.com. The guy that runs it, guy's name is Andrew, great buddy of mine. He's a big Kiss fan as well. We recently actually did an article together talking about Creatures of the Night, the album, and just to kind of hype up everyone for the box set that's coming out, the anniversary and all. But yeah, I usually do album reviews of like new albums that have come out. I'll talk about bands that I like that are kind of under the radar. I'll cover various Kiss topics and whatnot. Just things of that sort. So for Kiss fans out there that want to do some reading, there's plenty out there that I've written about.
So I will say that I'm a big fan of your writing on that page. I mean, when the whole Loomis stuff came out, Sam Loomis, the leaks, I remember reading one of your articles. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So I highly recommend people going there to read it.
And I did not forget. I do remember you plugged it on the FAQ podcast. And when I heard that, I was like, yes, all right. My work is getting somewhere, which is cool because no one else was talking about it. And for the record, I mean, this was me as a fan commenting on all this stuff that had been dropping while also touching on the backstory. The backstory is very complex. I'm not going to name drop anybody, but it was merely an excuse for me to fanboy in written form. So, and it was a great run while it lasted.
Yeah, exactly. So again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Again, I must say, check out Dylan's page, check out his YouTube stuff, check out everything that he's mentioned, check out, because it's well worth it. Especially like his Instagram stuff, you'll be on there for hours. His videos on YouTube, you'll be on there for hours like I am sometimes. Oh shit, he has this album. Oh, he has this. I'm there sometimes for a long time.
There's 5 years worth of content. I'll be approaching 5 years come New Year's Day in 2023. So there's plenty to watch.
Yes, for sure. So thank you again, Dylan, for coming on. I really appreciate it. And we'll have you on again. And thanks everybody for watching. Please leave your comments. And I'm sure, we'll have people leave comments, I'm sure. And I'll relay them over to Dylan, or if he comes back onto the page, he'll see them himself. And I'm sure he'll appreciate it as well. Thank you, Dylan. And so we will see you all next time. And we'll cut it off right here.